We've read some Shakespeare comedies that had a lot of darkness in them. To our taste, Taming of the Shrew and Merchant of Venice, in their different ways, are pretty dark. Lots of readers find Measure for Measure especially dark, not because of the outrageous, like, abuse of women or anti Semitism or racism, but just really the whole thing. Here, I will start with this. We have repeatedly had plays that started with some kind of ruler or law that is too rigid, that's stricter and unreasonable, stricter than any reasonable society can actually realistically deal with. And authorities are imposing these kind of unrealistic rules on a society where there needs to be some flexibility, um, some concession to basic human nature and human weakness, ordinary, not criminal human weakness, and some concession to love and sex. This is a play where sex itself, the thing that drives the main plot of most comedies, comedies are about trying to be with the one you love. Here, sex itself is criminalized, is imagined as dangerous. The Vienna of this play is imagined as this place where sex is sinister, it's out of control, it's licensed, it's uncool, it's decadent, or that's how the authorities see it. We have the problem here that the comic figure who's scheming and meddling to try to fix everything, who's making the hijinks, who's setting up the hijinks that will ensue to solve our problems, is the person who kind of created the problem. The Duke's position is that he has been too merciful, that he has not punished people enough, and therefore there is too much sex going on. He views sex as a problem, a menace to his society, rather than as, say, something that keeps people happy. Um, and his response is he needs there to be more judicial violence. He needs there to be more cruel and crazy punishments. We have someone here who is under sentence of death for getting his fiancee, and I repeat, his fiancee, the woman to whom he's engaged to be married, pregnant. Instead of seeing this as like, hey, little sequence is a little out of order, but hey, my dukedom just got one person larger. The world, instead of going with the Benedict line that the world must be peopled, this is a capital offense. We're going to execute people. That is bananas. I'll do a different video that's partly about how bananas that is. The Duke feels that he hasn't punished people enough, he hasn't been strict and rigid enough, so he's going to go away and hand things over for other people to be the bad guys and pile on the heavy, heavy punishments. This is a crazy thing to do. And then he's going to be the one who does what rulers are supposed to do in this society, which is provide the mercy. That it's the ruler's job not first to see justice done, but then to give mercy, to give people a break, to make it reasonable, because the law itself can be too rigid. The Duke is the one who is the prime mover of the solution, but the prime mover of the problem. He makes everything worse, and we have a bunch of extremely rigid characters. We have a primer here in Isabella who hates sex, who actually thinks her brother should be executed, who is not as sympathetic. This is not Helena and Hermia run off to the woods, right? And someone who has no apparent love interest until it gets tacked on in a very strange moment in the very end of Act 5, where she is not looking for love, and where the sex that's offered her is coercive and ugly and scary, where it is a kind of corrupt judicial rape, an attempt to extort sex from her. Bad times. We have Angelo, who also believes sex is awful, and therefore, and his when he recognizes his own desire, takes he decides not that sex isn't bad, that sex is human, and we all have these impulses, but that he must be terrible and corrupt. There's a whole lot of, and meanwhile, we have tons of jokes in this play about syphilis. Ha ha ha, syphilis. Shakespeare's generation has a different crueler sense of humor than we do. They kind of think torching Malvolio is kind of a hoot. These are people who would pay money to go see bear baiting. What is bear baiting? It's for people who feel bullfighting is for the sensitive panty waists. Oh, you tree hugger? Yeah, those are tree huggers who watch bullfighting. Bear baiting, which is having a bear chained to a stake and attacked by various trained savage dogs who try to kill it. Well, it tries to kill them. Good times. This play invites lots and lots of jokes about syphilis, an uncurable at the time sexually transmitted disease which killed you slow and had terrible symptoms along the way. Symptoms that we kind of don't know much about anymore because we cure syphilis much earlier, and also we can cure syphilis. This disease was endemic in early modern Europe, especially in the cities. It remained a problem into the 20th century when it finally became curable. Um, Shakespeare doesn't make this many syphilis jokes in any of his other plays. But other playwrights do. A lot of them do. It is actually not unusual to make. It's not unusual for a playwright of Shakespeare's generations to be like, haha, syphilis funny, and for the audience to be like, haha, funny, yeah, yeah, he's got syphilis, and he's lost his nose. Ah, get it? That's a pretty dark joke for us. The idea of a sexually transmitted disease that kills you doesn't seem funny, right? Like, Angels in America is not, AIDS is not the joke. Yes, we ain't having any COVID jokes. Oh, hell no, right? Not even gallows humor. I don't know any. If you know any, don't tell me. I don't think that's funny. But Shakespeare's audience does find these syphilis jokes funny, and that's really somewhat cruel and dark. This play is about justice and mercy. I will say this, it is a very dark play, but if it's about mercy for people who need it. There's a whole lot of sinners in this play, and a whole lot of people whose problem is they view others as sinners and have too rigid and condemnatory a morality.